This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Sean Oatney, Chief Development Officer at ARC Restaurant Group and Fat Patties. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Glad to be here, Mike.
It's great to have you. So your restaurant concept is Fat Patties, which originated in Huntington, West Virginia, near Marshall University back in 2007. I had never been to that part of the country until recently. My son is a freshman at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, and we take Route 64 that kind of carves through the West Virginia mountains. So we are driving by Marshall University quite a bit. So next time I'm in town, I'm definitely going to stop by and check it out. So your group purchased the chain Fat Patties back in 2018, knowing that it would take a little bit of work to get it ready for franchising, and we'll get into that here in a minute. You began franchising in 2022 with a group that originally purchased the existing 4 locations in West Virginia and Kentucky, and then they opened a 5th in Moorhead, Kentucky. And then subsequently, a franchise owner opened a Fat Patties in New Jersey, and you have one that's also coming to Wisconsin. So it sounds like you're on your way. Before we jump into the Fat Patties brand, tell us a little bit about your background, Sean.
I would love to. Thank you. So I've spent the last 23 years in franchising. I picked that path because I love helping people own their own business. So I started as a young man after I got out of the Army and started my own sign and graphics business. That led me, after 4 years of building that business up, to a role with Signorama. And Signorama is part of United Franchise Group. And so I had the opportunity of spent the lion's share of my acumen and my business tenure with United Franchise Group. I kind of did everything there, from a marketing rep to a regional vice president, and eventually running the entire company as the director of sales. And I did that for about 19 and a half years with them. They have now, I think, 11 different brands. When I left there in 2022, I think they were up to 9 or 10 brands, but spent most of my time there. And then did a short stint with a company called Tommy's Express. That's a car wash franchise based out of Holland, Michigan. And I spent some time there helping investors with a ground up build car wash system that was pretty unique in the space. And after I left them self-sufficient with what they were doing, more of a contract basis when I was there, that brought me over to ARC and helping ARC with the brands that we have. We have a couple other brands other than Fat Patties, but obviously we'll talk about Fat Patties today. So excited to be here. Love franchising, love the opportunity to really, for me, it's helping people not only run their own business, but giving them that path, that A plus B equals C, to really be successful by just following the footprint that's already been laid out before them. So that's why I love what I do, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a good background on where I've spent most of my time in the franchise.
Yeah, it certainly does. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for your service to our country. I think all the listeners can appreciate that. And yes, Signorama is a nationwide chain. Anyone in franchising is, familiar with United, so that's great that you spent a good majority of your career with them, kind of learning the franchising space. So, the brand we're talking about today is ARC's Fat Patties concept. It's built a loyal following in the markets where it operates. Can you share the origin story of the brand and kind of what you see as the long-term vision for its growth?
Yeah, no, it's so 2007. The originator of the brand actually went to Marshall and had an opportunity to take an old furniture store and turn it into what became Fat Patties. And it was he just wanted a place where people could come, have good food, have burgers. He said, I love burgers, and I think everybody else does too. And that led to a great start to the business. It was a fairly large opening, about 6,500 square feet.
Yeah, it's a
And,
nice
and
size
that,
space.
yeah, it's a big space. And that was only a small portion of the furniture store that they converted. And then they ended up growing that to another location in Ashland, Kentucky, not too far along that same corridor you mentioned. And then another one in Barbersville, West Virginia, and then eventually Taze Valley, which is also called Hurricane. So that was built and grown over from 2007 to about 2015, 2016.
Okay.
We saw the group, and our group really looks for opportunities where there's a great foundation, there's a great following, as you said, to the brand, and we can come in and really tweak and take that business, really refine it for the franchising model. And that's what we did. So kind of the vision piece that you asked about, we really took time, as any good franchisor would do, and we spent time really targeting the menu and the experience that the guests were having. Because any potential franchise partners we would have in our system, they want to make sure that we've got, cost in line, that we're, using the same SKUs across, multiple burgers, so that their cost is lower. They can have a higher profit margin and have a system that's very easy to work and to run. And so that's what we did. We kind of took that under our helm for about 4 years, refined the menu, and got it to where we felt it was in a great place to start. And then that brought really out of the woodwork our first franchise partners who were long-term and long-time patrons of Fat Patties. So we actually found our first franchise partners from, people who had been going there, when they were in school, and found it was, we love the brand. We'd love to, be part of, help grow it, across Appalachia and the United States. So it was a really cool story for that. And I think what we see openly is a ton of white space. With only having 7 locations, there's a lot of blue ocean opportunity in a lot of markets. And I think most Americans, it's probably the number one thing outside of pizza that people enjoy is burgers. So we feel we've positioned ourselves really well in the market with a value-added menu and something for everybody. It is a casual dining experience, but it's everybody from grandma after church to, going to the game, watching your games on Saturday or Sunday, or just going and having a nice dinner. So
Yeah,
kind of fit
that's
all the mold
interesting
there.
that your guests and your kind of raving fans of the brand became your franchise owners, and clearly they're having success as they're expanding. Because in the food business, as you know, Sean, that guests don't necessarily make great owners, but obviously you guys did your vetting and made sure that they were the right fit. So I think that passion is really a great place to start, but it takes a lot of business acumen to run a business of this size. So that's great that they were also aligned in that way. So, I mean, it's, like you mentioned, everyone likes burgers, right? I mean, next to pizza, it's like the number 2 food in the country. It's a crowded space. Like, what, in your view, makes Fat Patties unique to listeners that haven't been to the concept before, both in the product from the consumer side, as well as the kind of franchise offering, maybe support, et cetera? What's your kind of opinion on the differentiation?
What I was drawn to, and I think what most people are drawn to with the brand, is we have a couple different things that separates us from our competitors. We really pride ourselves on the 18 different burgers that we have. So we've got something for everybody that brings people back. So most people go out 4 times a month, to go out to dinner as a family in America. We're hoping they're going to come back 2 to 4 of those times and try each of our burgers. But the other thing that we do is we have a fats feature. So every month we have a brand new burger that is chef inspired and chef created, that lands right on our website. So if someone goes to our website today at fatpatties.com, they'll see the fats feature. This month it's it's a tiki. I think it's a touchdown tiki burger, and it's got a pineapple on it and some crazy sauces and some fun things.
You're
And
making me
those,
hungry, Sean. That wasn't part of the deal.
yeah, I haven't had lunch myself, so I'm pretty hungry myself. But that really drives people in, and then some of those fats features make it to our permanent menu. So we feel that doing that, as well as doing a couple times a year, we'll do menu ideations where we'll take things that maybe this burger did well at the beginning, but it's not doing as well. And then we're very, very conscious of the franchise partners' cost, as I mentioned earlier. So when we look at, when we order product, we want that product to touch 7 or 8 different burgers. So whether it's a sauce or whether it's a topping, that keeps costs low and it makes efficiencies within the back of the house as we are casual dining. So we have a front of the house and the back of the house. The other thing that kind of separates us is we're a full bar. So we've got, that fun element. The location in Moorhead is very unique. We have an area called the Eagle's Nest, and that's the Moorhead Eagles. And so the students can come in. We've got shuffleboard, sand shuffleboard. We've got video games, a couple video games. We've got soft tip darts, and an area what openly drives in extra revenue for the franchise partners. Because some people just want to come in and have a couple drinks and socialize and have some fun. And then some people like to then go from their dinner and go over and do the same thing. So we've got a really fun, casual environment that I think drives people to that. And then to the second part of your question on support, that's where we excel. We've got industry leaders that have been 20, 30 years in doing what they're doing on our team that are out there multiple times in a month, touching our franchise partners, making sure that the food's coming out great. We already know that looking at the reviews, but it's more so making sure that they've got everything they need to be successful for whether it's their new launch of a new restaurant or it's looking at all their existing portfolio and saying, how can we better sales? How can we target marketing? What are the things that are working well that we can help you implement on that local level?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've created a really great environment, not only for the food, but also a place where you can come and be entertained and spend some time. And I know that translates into more sales and kind of a more sticky concept for the franchise owners. So you mentioned kind of the menu innovation with all the burgers and kind of the rotating kind of chef inspired burgers. What else are you guys doing to kind of stay ahead of the pack in years to come, whether it be like technology or market expansion? What kind of comes to mind?
Yeah, so we have rewards programs, so someone can come in if they've eaten all the burgers. There's a challenge there. We've got our Bite This Burger, which is our trademarked name. Fat Patties Bite This, and so all of our burgers. The other thing I think really helps us stand out in a crowded market is they're fresh, never frozen. So all the burgers are half-pound fresh, never frozen burgers. Our Bite This Burger is 2 of those half-pound patties. So it's a 1-pound burger, and if someone eats that, they get a junior Bite This Burger for free. So a lot of people come in and like that challenge, get one for the kiddos, and we comp that for them. But I think that, along with really not being a sports bar, but being a sports bar, being a place that people are going to come and really, we want Fat Patties to be an extension of their home. So we want them to feel like they're at their house. I think that comes from our servers coming in and actually spending the time and actually being really interested in what they're doing. Much like, when you look at coffee, Starbucks and Dutch Brothers both serve coffee, but one of them does a lot better at connecting with the guest than the other. And so I think that's one of the things that I think we really bring to the marketplace and make people feel at home from that aspect. On the technology side, we've got Toast integrated into our systems, and the back of the house is very, very efficient. We look at literally every step that every single one of our back of the house staff takes, and we've set up the back of the house so efficiently that we can get our orders out very, very quickly. Ticket times of the newest one we just opened up in Toms River, I think we're 12, 13 minutes from the time to order to get, a burger and fries or a pizza or whatever they ordered out to their table. That's efficiency, and that brings people back.
Yeah.
They're okay with sometimes a wait to get in, but once they get in, if they've got a really great experience, it really drives them back. So we do that at each of our locations. We're very cognizant of using that technology to make sure that we're efficient and have a great guest experience.
Yeah, you mentioned the loyalty with Toast. Over the years, the loyalty programs have evolved. Toast in particular, I really enjoy because they give me like cash back when I spend
Hmm.
somewhere, and it's like meaningful. I'll go to a place and it's like, oh, would you like $12 off your meal? It's like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but I'll take it. So I think
Sure.
that does encourage guests to come back and join the loyal because it's easy. It's like frictionless, and there's just not a lot of headaches with it, which I think is pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit more about the franchise support, which I know is a huge consideration for candidates that are exploring your model, because there's a lot going on, right? You got a front of the house, back of the house. It's a big space, a lot of employees. What kind of training, marketing, ongoing support do Fat Patty's owners kind of receive when they decide, okay, I'm signing on the dotted line. This is the thing I'm going to do. How do you help them out?
So we help them out a couple different ways. First and foremost, we want our franchise partners to know that they're going to be involved in the business. We don't have an absentee model on that at this point. It might down the way evolve to that, but at this point, we want people who are passionate about the food and passionate about the business. So we require them to have about 2 weeks of training themselves. That's really running and managing the business. But they can then hire. We have a back of the house, front of the house, and a kitchen manager that are involved, and those managers get 6 weeks of training. So each of them gets
Okay.
6 weeks of training. That training happens at one of our larger locations that can handle the extra staff in there, like Tom's River or a West Allis, Wisconsin location. And then they'll spend their 6 weeks of training there, about 3 weeks in one of those locations, and then we bring them back to their home store where we're helping them build that out, overseeing the construction, doing all that stuff, and then 3 weeks as they're ready to go. So we target all that training to where it's continuous. So they spend 3 weeks in, let's say, Tom's River. Their location's got their certificate of occupancy. They're ready to go. They've got food in the freezer and the walk-in cooler, and they're ready to, go start making some stuff. Have our VIP events and our friends and family event to get things started. So that's really where we get started, and then that is aligned with a marketing plan that's put together that is really robust and it drives butts and seats. So the location that we just opened in West Allis, Wisconsin, which is a Milwaukee suburb, that was previously an Applebee's. So
Okay.
we converted an Applebee's to a Fats. That's the nickname people give it. It's Fats, but it's Fat Patties. And we've been able to drive a ton of people through Meta and through social media marketing, as well as some other avenues that our marketing team does extremely well. And again, their goal is we need butts in seats. Once they get in there, we know that the food and the service is going to keep them coming back, but we want to drive new customers, new guests coming in on a weekly basis. So we monitor that. We use programs like Sochi, which help us, see where that impact is, and then it drives that engagement. So when you see those social media posts or you see those reviews online, that's all due to all the stuff that we've done on the back end, making sure that the store is ready to go. And in fact, sometimes even delaying the Uber Eats and the online ordering because we don't want the guest coming in for the first time to have a bad experience. We'd rather have the kitchen locked down and the experience amazing. Then maybe 6 weeks into it, then we add, okay, now we're going to open up all your online ordering and now we're good because we want again those first time guests walking in the door that take the time to walk into our establishment to have an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And from a site selection standpoint, obviously there's a lot of art and science to that. Are you pretty involved in kind of working? Because the local owners are going to know their market pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know your brand really well. Is it a collaboration to kind of identify the right sites? And then how long are we looking at? I mean, for a second gen retrofit, is this like we find the site and we can kind of build it out and be operating in 3 to 4 months, something like that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the site. I'll give you a couple examples of that. We are very collaborative in that. So we rely on local brokers that know the area very well as our franchise partners who've lived in that market and know the market. But what we like to target are, some of those chain brands that maybe had the 20-year-old menus that never changed, and that's why they're out of business, like Applebee's or TGI Fridays or O'Charlie's. And then we look at those locations. We can very efficiently and effectively turn those over fairly quickly. The Moorhead location that we did, which was three 2,000 square foot businesses that are all combined into one. We blew out some walls. There was, I think, a pizza shop, a bakery, and a jewelry store. We took over all three of them and converted that into our Fat Patties, and that took about 120 days.
Okay.
And it was under our initial investment in item 7 by probably half, which was great. And then the location in Toms River, we did for half of that half. And it took us a little bit longer there, just because of, New Jersey has some fantastic hurdles that they love with liquor laws and things like that. So a little bit longer there. And then the West Allis location, I think we got done in 90 days. So we have everything in place. So we really hold our franchise partners' hands from the very first time we meet them. We're talking about where would they ideally like to be. And then we go into the market, we drive the market with them, and then we're going to take 5 to 7 great locations, whittle that down to maybe the top 2 or 3 that we want to engage with the landlords, and get some great terms for our franchise partners. We help them with that because it's probably the first time they've ever looked at a location. So we want to make sure we're getting them some abatement, some tenant improvement allowance, things like that. Yep. And then hold their hand through the construction phase and all the way up to grand opening and beyond. So we want to make sure that even if they've done it before, and we've got our first franchise partners, they own Subways, they own regional grocers, they own pizza franchises. We assumed they knew nothing, and they compliment us, say, "Gosh, guys, you taught us so much stuff that these other companies didn't do because you were so attentive and you were in the market," where they might have just looked on their software and Google Earth. I want to be there in person because you see things differently, and you meet the local people, and then you see, oh, there is a need for this, and this would be a great place to launch one of our brands. So
yeah, no, it's good that you provide them with turnkey guidance in the site selection, site approval, and kind of construction phase, because a 1,200 square foot Subway is going to be a lot different than a 6,500 square foot Fat Patties, and obviously the requirements at the back of the house are different, and the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, things like that. So it's good that you treat it like, all right, well, we're going to give you all the information, whether you've done it 10 times or not. And, that way it's going to be a good project for us as the franchisor and you as the new owners. So let's talk a little bit about the culture. It seems like a fun brand. You call it Fats, it's called Fat Patties. It's in college towns. It's burgers, it's beer. What are the core values you guys have, and how does that translate into the culture of the business?
Great question. I think really, our mission, our vision for, each restaurant is that when people come in, again, and this is in our core values, that they feel like they're part of our family. And so for us, it's very important that, and we don't have to be in college towns. It just happened to be that we're situated in a couple college towns. Toms River is not close to a college campus of anywhere. Probably a couple hours away is Rutgers, but we really focus on bringing a smile to people's face when they walk in. I think people are pleasantly surprised with the flavor profiles that we're providing. There's a lot of places where they're burger franchises and they've got a bunch of burgers, but they all kind of taste the same. We have, completely different. Probably my favorite, part Italian, is called Patty Capone, and so it is that half pound fresh never frozen burger, and then it's got provolone cheese, marinara sauce, and then we take Wisconsin cheese curds, fry those, put them on top of it, put more sauce on it, put a brioche bun, and then put a cheese curd on top. And it's got pepperoni slices on it as well. So it's an amazing thing. It is sloppy and gooey, but it's one of the things that, again, from a culture standpoint and from a patron standpoint, we want to have fun. We've got fun sayings like "Fats is where it's at," "Love your buns, hun." When you walk out of our locations, it's got fun sayings like, "Your pants will thank you when you're done." It's like, we're going to fill your belly and you're going to have a good time and you're going to be with friends and you're going to feel like family. So from our CEO to our COO to everybody in our corporate headquarters to our franchise partners, they all have that same vision of making people feel at home, having a great experience, and having some place where they feel like, this is just an extension of me being at the house with my buddies. We just have great food and amazing service. And that's really what drives us, is to find those people with that fun. We want to have fun with guests, and we really want to drive that with our franchise partners as well. So if someone's out there and they're listening and they're like, man, this sounds like a great fun brand, it is. And we don't want to be the stale. We don't want people to go, it was all right. The food was good, but the service was horrible. We really want people to feel engaged. And when they leave, they're like, wow, I want to tell everybody about this. This was an amazing experience.
Well, I think that Capone might be the first one I try when I visit, because I know if anyone listening hasn't tried a good fried cheese curd, they don't know what they're missing. So I got to try that with the marinara on a Fats burger. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the culture. Can you kind of share a story with us about a franchise owner that kind of embodies what corporate's kind of pushing in terms of, what Fat Patties is all about, and kind of how their journey kind of aligns with the opportunity to be successful in your brand?
Yeah, I think probably first and foremost comes to mind is we've got a partnership, and it's gonna sound like I'm cheating because I'm going with our first franchise partner, but I really think they really truly embody what Fats is all about and what Fat Patties is about. These guys grew up in Appalachia. They went to school there. They ate at Fat Patties. They loved the brand so much, and openly, they had other investments that they did before Fat Patties, and this was to them, you know, they said, what you guys have done with it and where you've taken it from where it was when we went there feels like it's all grown up now. Because the portions used to be massive, and the food was, you get a ton of food for a little bit of money. And we kind of refined that to great food with a good portion, still for a great value. But they really loved the fact that we stayed true to the roots of what made Fat Patties for them a place that they wanted to be. So Jeremy and Scott, they have not only invested in their fifth location, but they have went back and updated all four of their other locations to what a new store would look like when we open up a new store, because they had purchased it from us, and we hadn't put the new signage and all the flair and all the stuff that we have at the location. So they eat, breathe, sleep Fat Patties. Even though they're regional grocery owners and they have Subways and they have other pizza franchises, their passion is really Fats. And when you're there, they take time to hit every table. They do table touches. They talk to the people. They know the people that are coming in, and they are really passionate about that. And it's funny because I've got two guys that have this 5 businesses, and we're a full service bar, and neither of them drink. So he's like, we know what drinks guys have, and they come in and they want us to have a drink with them, and we're like, we don't drink. They love the food, and the other thing that I will tell you that I really love about Jeremy and Scott is they have been part of really building the brand. So you talk about collaboration on locations. They have been very collaborative on the menu and how many burgers and what burgers we've taken off that may have been around for 10 years. And they're like, yeah, it's not a good performer. Let's put something else on and let's try it out here. Let us be the test kitchen. So they've really, really embodied that on a local level. And without them, we wouldn't be where we're at now. And the menu and the way the store looks and all that stuff, they've been a huge part of where we've been able to take Fat Patties. So I have to give them kudos for that, because they're amazing franchise partners.
I mean, it seems like a good opportunity for someone that wants something that's tested, proven, has already scaled to multiple units, multiple states, multiple owners. But also they still, corporate is still listening to the franchise owners, because it's still small enough where they have influence over what the brand looks like. So I think there's kind of a confluence there that is pretty hard to find, right? So that's pretty neat. So if someone's looking at this and says, I want to be a part of Fat Patties, like what markets do you want to go into? I know you mentioned that blue ocean, a lot of white space. What, in your view, what are kind of some of the prime areas for Fat Patties to come and succeed?
I think, and I'm a hub and spoke kind of guy, so I think as you grow a brand, people around it talk about it. In fact, being here in Colorado, I had to go to a chiropractor, and I told her what I did, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Fat Patty!" She's like, "I went to Marshall." So the world is very small. As
Right.
big as it is, it's still very small. So I would say I think there's probably places like Chicago and Detroit and places like that that I would target. I think Columbus, Ohio, Indiana, anywhere around kind of where we started, there's already a following, and that's why we're looking right now in places like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, kind of coming across that Mid-Atlantic to the Midwest. I think that is a great start for us, but we've got some, franchise partners that we're probably, a couple weeks away from doing a multi-unit deal down in Tampa. So we feel that there's, across the Eastern Seaboard, the thing we're not worried about is we can get the product anywhere. So I think our focus would be really Central, Midwest, and East Coast, and I'll include myself in Central America, Central part of America, even though I'm on the West in Denver. I think we would want to focus there and over until we get about 50 units. And then at that point, we can start talking about going over to the West Coast, going into Canada, doing some of those other things from an international standpoint. But I think really we want to go where there are people and people like burgers. And I think, our focus would be a little bit larger cities. So, a place like Colorado Springs or Denver, or a place like Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, Lexington, those are all great places. But, North Carolina and Georgia would be fantastic as well. So I know it's not a specific answer, but, those types of towns and those types of cities, we could definitely entertain multiple units with multiple groups or multiple units with one group
Okay.
and build from
And I
there.
appreciate that. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity out there for new owners. So in terms of who you're looking for in a potential franchisee, clearly they have to be capitalized. I'm assuming you want some degree of knowledge about the food and beverage industry. What qualities or traits do you guys seek out in a new Fats owner?
Yeah, a great question. I would say number one, I want just amazing human beings. I know that sounds cliche, but you know, we want our franchise partners to be involved in the community. We typically have about 100 employees at these locations from the back of the house to the front of the house. So their impact is helping hire, over 100 people. We want them involved in the community. We want them to have that community sense. And we want them to have some background. It could be small, but some background in food service. If they have some food service background, ideally, someone that has multiple units and they've got maybe a portfolio that has different a brand that maybe it's chicken and we're burgers, so they can they're not competing with themselves and they can add to their portfolio. That's fantastic. But really, someone that's going to be passionate about building and growing the business. We feel that they can spend probably the first 5 to 6 months in the business, and then they can get themselves to the next location and the next location, and then eventually hire the staff that'll run all those for them. So we see that as a long-term play. But really, someone that's got some management experience. Our Tampa gentleman has a coffee shop as his background, so no full service, but has 4 or 5 coffee shops, knows how to interact with people. And I've been a fly on the wall in his locations, and he just treats people so amazingly. And I'm like, if we can have that with all of our franchise partners, then that'll be fantastic. I think the other thing is when we do interview and talk with our potential franchise partners, we're always looking for something that adds value to the system. Maybe their background was at American Greetings and they did all this different stuff from a board level, and they're going to bring value to us as a system from somebody that has that different background than someone that was strictly all restaurants. And so each time we're talking with someone, we're looking at what value does this add to the system, so that we could get better as a whole, as a group. So when we do have things like franchise advisory councils and things like that that embody the the franchise partners to give their opinions on what they think should happen, then you've got a lot of different viewpoints. It's not just a singular, well, this is what we've always done in food for 25 years. I want someone to challenge that. I want someone to say, hey, we should do this. So we're very malleable in that, and we really want that type of breadth of knowledge across, all of our franchise partners.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I appreciate that. So let's talk about item 7. I know there's going to be a great deal of variance in the cost to open one of these things. We talked about the different footprints and the different conditions of the space, if it's going to be a gray box, vanilla shell, a second gen conversion. But what kind of guidance are we giving owners when they step in and they're looking to open their first Fat Patties franchise? What's that cost look like in item 7?
Yeah, so we want someone to have around $250,000 liquid, and somewhere around $1 million net worth. Item 7 is going to say around 800,000 up to 3.2 million. Another 3.2 million if someone said, I want to build a brand new ground up space. We've got that. We've got that all laid out. We can happily do that for somebody. But I think most people are really looking at, how do I get into the space for the best return on my money? And that's going to be second gen space. And, we're always looking at, what's your cash on cash return? How fast can we get that back to you? And obviously we've got all kinds of programs for people to get financed, but we're looking for great opportunities where we can get them in that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 range, on a second gen space. A lot of these second gen space already have everything in it. I think our West Dallas location, we had to put our pizza oven in and another 5-foot grill, and that was it. Everything else was already there. Yeah. So, everything.
And if you're able to
build out,
get in for $500,000 and SBA says 20% down and maybe 10% post loan liquidity, you can have $150K and be in the deal.
Absolutely. And we want them to have some working capital in there. So all that works out. So yeah, SBA is a great program to come into and use. And I think for us that puts people in a position where they can, start one and then, hey, this looks great. Let's start number 2. Or if someone wants to come in and take down an area like Central Ohio, we would look at probably 5 to 7 locations in that market and allow them to put a development schedule and kind of go from there. But we've got, there's plenty of space out there, and if you look at the news on a daily basis, I think last quarter and the second and first quarter, there were 40 Hooters that went out of business. There was a number of other chains that, there's a lot of inventory, which is good for us in markets where we can get to and find these spaces that would tend to just sit there. And our ideal space, as I know we threw around some numbers for Toms River, is about 3,500 to 4,500 square feet is ideal for us. We'll go up to 6,500, 7,000 when applicable, but our target is that 35 to 4,500 square foot space.
Gotcha. And then in terms of performance, I saw on your website that you have an AUV of 2.15. It's a lot of volume. It's 40,000 a week average. Without diving into specifics, what can you tell us about the performance of Fat Patties and why you believe the business model is, sustainable with profitability?
Yeah, and I'm going to preface this by all those AUVs, which I love the AUVs. They're great, and that's great volume. That's in the Mid-Atlantic Appalachia, 40,000 people population, 42,000 median income, 43-year-old is the median age in those markets. So when you take that and you're doing that kind of volume in that area, and now you go to Toms River or West Dallas or Columbus, Ohio, there's nowhere to go but up. And we know that, our Toms River is a perfect example of that. I can't tell you because of how, obviously franchising works, because they're new and they're not in our disclosure, but they are kicking butt in that market. And we're just blown away. I mean, we knew that it was going to be great, but we didn't know it was going to be this great. So that is a good example for us of people are craving something different. They're craving something that they have a great experience on. And when we look at our reviews every week, we've been open now a month, we'll be back. Great experience. Love this, love that. Can't wait to try this. So, we feel that the sky's the limit. And I don't think we're even close on our AUVs in the next 2 or 3 years. We'll be laughing at how low they are right now. So I think we're excited about, the future and what can happen. And I think that a lot of that will happen outside of those smaller markets. The great thing is if someone says, I'm in a small market, we're like, hey, we've got great examples for you of how you can, do, almost $2.2 million in revenue.
Well, I'm excited to get out to my first Fat Patty's restaurant. It'll be somewhere in West Virginia or Kentucky. I'll let you know when I stop by. But this has been great, Sean. I really appreciate the time you've taken to kind of educate us about the brand. Anything else that you want to add to the mix before we wrap up today?
I would just say if you're interested, obviously go to fatpatties.com/franchise. And we've got a simple form on there. It's about 2 minutes. And then that'll get your information directly to my desk. And then we'll start a conversation and just see where you're looking and if we're a good fit for you or not. But I definitely appreciate the time and the opportunity to share our passion for burgers and hopefully others as well. So I thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I will post that link with this episode so anyone listening can find that pretty easily. And if anyone listening would like to connect with Sean and his team to learn more about becoming a Fat Patties franchise owner, contact me at franchiseqb.com. We're on X at QBFranchiseQB, and I'll get you connected. Thank you so much, Sean, for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.